Welcome to the Week 11 Fantasy Flex Podcast presented by Prize Picks. This is our main slate podcast. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined as always by my dude, Sean Koerner. Sean, what's going on?
Not much. We did a good job hitting that 2-pack. Van Jefferson over and Devo under.
I feel like not Devo. How dare you?
Shit.
Ayuk. How dare you? Devo didn't go under anything.
Devo went off. Yeah,
Devo went under the Rams defense and into the end zone.
He was my captain. But yeah, thank God the Niners won handily because I think Ayuk probably would have gone over that. But Monday games have been very well to me, and DFS and player props. It's Sunday Night Football has been tough for me. So it's Tuesday morning, so that means I'm happy. Had a good Monday night. How about you?
Yeah, I pretty much stayed off that game. Like, I knew the Sharps were on San Francisco. I had a good DFS game, but betting wise, I was just like, I get why the Sharps are on San Francisco, but I was concerned about the right side of their line, so I ended up passing. But I'm sure most people that did bet the game bet on San Francisco, so seemed like a good night for most people. My guy Debo went off. Love to see it.
Oh yeah.
Enjoyed the game. On primetime games this year have been so loony. I mean, especially Thursday nights, but it seems like every primetime game now there's an upset or just something goes crazy. So I've been trying to kind of reel it in a little bit and with these primetime games and be smart. So let's get to week 11 though, and we'll start with a primetime game, and it is the Thursday night game between the Atlanta Falcons, the New England Patriots. The Patriots are 7-point favorites on the road. The total 47.5. Sean, what are you thinking here for the captain spot? There's a bit of uncertainty at the running back positions for both teams. Cordero Patterson looks like he may miss this game, maybe out a couple of weeks. And then on the other side, Damian Harris looks like he will be back. I believe he practiced or his designation was limited practice for the walkthrough on Monday. So it creates kind of this interesting juxtaposition because there's not a lot of receivers, I think, in this one to kind of go with in the captain spot, especially for Atlanta. You're kind of, against that Belichick defense. They're number one in DVOA against tight ends. So it's kind of a tough choice here. And then they priced up Wayne Gallman above Mike Davis. I don't know if you saw that, but Wayne Gallman, 8,400 on DraftKings.
They've been listening to our Monday pod.
Davis, 5,800. But like a $2,600 difference for Wayne Gallman. I mean, it's just absurd. It's hilarious. It's absurd. It's all these things. But yeah, so I'm like, what do you think? Captain spot here.
So there's a lot of questionable players in this game, so it's really hard to break it down yet. But I think for the Patriots side, if Damian Harris is out, I think Ramondre Stevenson is a no-brainer for the captain slot if you want to go there. Should be a positive the game script, that the Patriots are -7, but he's been involved in the passing game as well, so he could be a true workhorse back if Harris is out. And I guess Brandon Bolden's questionable too. So it might be pretty obvious to play Stevenson in the captain slot come Thursday, but right now I'm thinking about him. And then on the Falcons side, there's not much there, so I think Kyle Pitts is the no-brainer. But it wouldn't surprise me if Bill Belichick creates the entire game plan to slow him down. But yeah, Pitts is good enough. This is more of a bet on talent. He's been good against man coverage this year. So if you're watching this game, you want to have some fun, you kind of want Kyle Pitts as your captain. I want to be rooting for him. So probably go Pitts there. But I think either way, if you go Stevenson or Pitts, you're going to have to get creative with the rest of your lineup. So I think that's where I'm going to be creative and, look for leverage. Whereas captain, this game, there aren't enough options. I'm probably going to stick with those two guys.
Yeah, I don't think I want Kyle Pitts. I mean, Bill Belichick's just been so good. Like, remember DJ Moore a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like these receivers do anything against this defense. And the Falcons are so easy to defend because if they don't have Patterson, Pitts really is the only guy. So I think it has to be a Patriot here. And I think it's Harris or Stevenson. I think if Harris plays, you kind of split up the exposure between both of them. It's possible that Stevenson sees more work, coming off that really good game here with the 100 yards and the 2 scores. But it's also possible Belichick says, hey, the rookie, that was a big workload for a rookie. Harris is fresh. It was a concussion, so it's not like he's, any part of his body that he would run with is banged up. So he could also get a big workload. Both of them could hit. I mean, in this kind of game here, They could dominate the time of possession. So Harris or Stevenson for me, hoping Harris sits again. Cause then it's just an obvious smash spot, like 95% exposure Stevenson.
Yep.
All right. What about cheat codes?
Well, we love going backup tight ends, but unfortunately this game, well, let's just put it like this way, that these two backup tight ends are two of the best backup tight ends in the game, and Jonnu Smith and Hayden Hurst, but they're both questionable. So that sucks. So we can't really talk about them. So, for the Falcons side, you mentioned maybe it's Mike Davis because Wayne Gallman saw a ton of work last week. That was probably due to the blowout, which says a lot. Maybe they're protecting Mike Davis because they still consider him to be the number 2 running back on the team. But I'm probably not going to be targeting Falcons running backs, especially if Cordell Patterson plays. But I think Tajay Sharp is an interesting cheat code for the Falcons. Gage, Zacchaeus, and Sharp have been getting pretty even playing time, but Sharp's been pretty much non-existent the past couple of games. He's one of those guys where you wouldn't play him on a normal slate, but just for this game, he only needs a couple catches, maybe a deep ball, and he can break the slate. So I think Tajay Sharp for the Falcons side is probably my cheat code. And on the Patriots side, I don't really like this guy. Like my projections aren't nice to him, but Nelson Aguilar, he's probably due for one more big game the rest of the season. It could be this week. So he's probably worth a flyer. Unfortunately, he's hit his floor way too many times this season to really trust him here. But, he's one of those guys where he does have a high ceiling, especially against this Falcons defense. He's been a lot better against zone this year. Falcons play zone at the 8th highest rate. So you could do worse than like a Nelson Aguilar on this type of slate.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. Patriots defense. They've had double-digit points in 4 straight games. And I think Patterson's going to miss. I think there's a very small chance that he's going to play. It sounds like he's week to week. So I know we're recording this early Tuesday. We don't like to give, definites here if a guy hasn't been ruled out, but it really looks like he's going to be a short week and they're calling him week to week. So I don't think he's going to go. I think that makes this offense extremely easy to defend. And this has been a very volatile offense. Like when it's on, and Matt Ryan throws for like 3 scores and over 300 yards, but he's had a couple of just disgusting games. And I think this is going to be another one here. So going with the correlation between, my captain is going to be Harris or Stevenson, and then I'm getting that Patriots defense, and that'll pretty much account for exposure of all my lineups. So just have that stack, and then I'll just build around that.
Nice.
All right. Let's get into the main slate here for week number 11. We will start at the quarterback position. Sean, give me your top 5 for week number 11.
So I got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Dak Prescott.
I have Allen, Jackson, Mahomes, Brady, Prescott. So pretty much the same 5, except did some tweaks to my projections earlier this morning, and Allen's coming out a little bit above here. I think that Colts defense is just one, that zone D. I think Allen's going to be able to kind of spread that a little more than, Jackson going against the Bears in Chicago. I just think it'll be a little more of a gritty kind of game for them. Still like Jackson as a top 2 guy, but going back to Josh Allen here as the QB1, and Mahomes is right on the heels too. Like you could make a case because this Dallas, like right now, the total's around 56. It's early in the week, so I'm still tinkering with my projections. But if my total ends up projected higher than that, Mahomes only needs like a few tenths of a point to jump everyone. So Mahomes may be back, and like I can make a case for Mahomes Dak 1-2. In these
the top 5 is stacked, and now Brady's coming off of 2 straight losses. So I think this top 5 you could reshuffle any different way, and I wouldn't argue against it.
Do we even have data for Brady coming off 2 straight losses? Like, is it just his suspension, right? That's like 4. We treat that as 4 straight losses, and then he went.
How often has he lost 2 straight games? It's got to be rare.
Yeah,
probably don't have a big sample size to go off of.
Yeah, is that is that a primetime game this week? The Bucks game, or is that a Sunday game?
Yeah, no, it's
Monday
Night
game.
Football.
Oh yes, I think I'm writing that one up this week. So everyone can look out for that at actionnetwork.com. I'll definitely have that little nugget in there for you guys. It's a stacked top 5. All these guys are obviously in play in tournaments, but who do we kind of like for our cash games or some DFS cheat codes, some cheaper guys that we would look to pivot to in tournaments.
Well, for the expensive guys, I think Dak Prescott at 7,200 is a great play. This game should be a shootout. And I think Michael Gallup being back is huge. You know, he has one of the best wide receiver trios in the game now, and Dalton Schultz. So Dak's ceiling is super high here. I love stacking that game, but I think everybody will. But he's probably the best top option this week. And then I like Derek Carr at 5,900. I think this Raiders Bengal game is a sneaky shootout. You know, the total is 49.5. It's like a three-way tie for the second highest total. There's a ton of options in this game. So I like Carr, and then kind of building around game stacks for that one. And I think Deshaun Jackson, like if he can catch the ball and go the correct direction, you know, he gives Carr a higher ceiling. So Carr's shown a really high ceiling this year. So anytime he could be, you know, anytime you can get him under 6K, he's certainly worth it. And then Cam Newton at 5,100. This price seems egregious if he starts this week, but we saw this week that, you know, they're going to have goal line packages for him to get some rushing scores like we saw last year on the Pats. And he has, you know, better receivers than he did last year. He has DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson flashed the upside we knew it was there, and he has Christian McCaffrey. So love Newton's upside. He's way too cheap. And this football team, you know, they lost Montez Sweat, and now they lost Chase Young for the season. And their defensive line was the only saving grace for this defense. So now they have nothing. So this is a team I like attacking when it comes to fantasy. So Cam Newton at 5,100, he'll probably very highly rostered, but I don't care. He's worth every penny this week.
Yeah, like Cam, like Dak. Dak probably still ends up as my cash game QB unless we're really tight for salary. Then I may consider Cam. I still think Cam's floor is, you know, you still kind of question it just because we haven't really seen him start a game. You know, he was pretty bad last year as a passer. You know, a lot of that I'm sure was due to the Patriots receiving core. But another guy I like is Tua Tagovailoa. He looks like he's going to start, and the Jets have given up a cool 44 points per game over the last 4 games. I mean, this is just a smash spot. And Tua has gone off against these bad defenses. He's lucked out into playing quite a few of them in the few starts that he's made this year. But, you know, if you'll remember against the Falcons, he went for 291 yards, 4 touchdowns. Against the Jaguars, 329 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, you know, in relief last week, he was pretty solid, 158 passing yards on just 13 attempts. And then a rushing touchdown as well. So mixed in has been, you know, a game against Buffalo and a game against the Belichick defense. So pretty much he's had a tough, he's had like this like volatile schedule where he either plays like the toughest possible matchup or the easiest. And this is the easiest again. Yep. So, you know, Tua's in my top 10 this week. I really like, I think I like him more than Derek Carr, actually, just because Carr's been trending downward. I don't know if defenses have figured him out, but he had a pretty bad game against the Giants and then another one against the Chiefs. So I think I'd roll a Tua over him. And then another guy with kind of in that Cam Newton tier with a, you know, high ceiling, but a very low floor, Justin Fields. But I was, you know, optimistic after what I saw against Pittsburgh. I think Fields showed some things as a passer. I think he is, you know, it sounds like a cliche, but the young quarterback looks like he's getting a little better week by week. It is a cliche. You can have a bad game at any time, but that's what it looks like, at least to me. And I think the key is he's using his legs more. You know, he's kind of getting out the pocket when he needs to. He's a little more decisive. So I think Fields is worth some exposure in tournaments, at least down there under 6K, just for his rushing ability. Remember, the Ravens like to play man-to-man coverage. So it's either, you know, it's either they're going to kind of have to go away from what they do. And then I think that helps Fields throwing the ball, or if they play man coverage, I think he's going to be able to break off some chunk plays on the ground.
Yeah, and you pretty much called Tua last week. You were questioning if he was even like too injured to play. It could have been something a little more behind the scenes. And then when Jacoby went down,
right,
Tua came in, he looked fine. And then
the
funny thing is he threw that pass and it looked like he actually hurt his finger.
Yep, he did.
the finger
it.
that was hurt.
Yeah,
and it didn't really phase him. So it makes you wonder if his finger was even injured to begin with, or like bad enough to sit him out. But yeah, he seemed healthy. So who knows what's going on there though.
I mean, this is just a guess, but I think he probably passive aggressively said something that they didn't like. Because remember, he had that quote that I don't feel wanted around here when they were talking about Deshaun Watson in the trade talks, and maybe they just, you know how coaches are with, especially a guy like Brian Flores. He's from the Belichick camp. Like, he was probably like, oh, like, this guy thinks he's gonna distraction. Like, I don't know. Brian Flores hasn't had many good moments this year, so I'm gonna put this one on Flores. That's what I'm doing. But let's get to the quarterback prop.
All right, let's go with Russell Wilson. Total passing yards. Was that just rust, or what the hell was that? But let's see. My projection right now is 245.5. You going over or under that?
I'm at 246. So okay. It's a good line. So I would go over. Yeah, all right. I'll go over. I mean, I think it was rust only because we've seen this now a few times where like Aaron Rodgers wasn't too great either. On the other side, we've seen this a few times where quarterbacks come back in the first game back, you know, they're a little shaky. So I think it was rust. I mean, he was playing like the best quarterback in football, you know, when he went down. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, he's still kind of on that low end QB1 range for me. He's QB 12 right now. If Kyra sits, he'd bump up to QB 11, maybe QB, 9 or 10, as the week progresses and I tinker with some things, but definitely a low end QB1 this week. I think if Kyler plays, that helps everyone involved, because I think then you just see more offense on both sides, and there's just a need to kind of keep up with the other side. So I think if Kyler plays, it just helps both of those quarterbacks in this game. But the Seahawks also for whatever reason, they've struggled to run a lot of offensive plays. In Wilson starts, they're only averaging 55 offensive plays per game. So it's been a bit of a struggle to get the volume necessary too. So that's another reason I have him kind of in that around that 250 range. And
that seemed like a brutal weather to return from a finger injury. I mean, it was freezing, snowing. Like, you think it'd be hard for him to get loose. But I digress. We don't want to talk about finger injuries the entire pod. So I'll move on.
Did you see Ty Montgomery's? I think it was Ty Montgomery.
Oh, did he?
Oh, his pinky went like the wrong direction. Like, if you get a chance, go look that up. It's pretty gruesome.
I did not see that, but it probably doesn't impact his playing ability.
Well, no, he'll probably be out.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
he probably definitely will. They have like eight receivers like that they can use instead of him. So we'll see. But let's go to running back. Speaking of which, who do you like for your top 5 running backs for week 11?
So welcome back to the number 1 slot, Christian McCaffrey. He's my number 1 this week. Jonathan Taylor finally got bumped down to number 2. Then it's Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, and Alvin Kamara.
I still got Taylor number 1, McCaffrey number 2. McCaffrey's a tough one to project, right? Because he got his 20 touches or whatever, but he got him in like 2.5 quarters. And then he was like going to the blue tent and massaging his hamstrings and his muscles every 2 seconds. So it's, that might change. He's going to be in the top 5 for me regardless, but whether he ends up like 1 or 3, remains to be seen. You can always check our rankings and projections at actionnetwork.com. But it's Taylor, McCaffrey, Cook, Harris, and DeAndre Swift in that 5th spot. Just because at this juncture, I don't know exactly where Alvin Kamara is, in terms of his status, and
Swift, questionable.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I know that, but I mean, even if he plays, because Mark Ingram has been playing so well, do we get that Kamara that gets like, 10 carries and then a bunch of catches, or do we still get like a 15 carry plus 5 catch game from Kamara is kind of the question here, especially coming off the injury. So DeAndre Swift, I think it's pretty clear that he's kind of taken over that backfield. I think because they were using 3 backs still. So I think even if Williams comes back, remember, he was trending down in usage even before he got hurt. So I don't think that will impact Swift too much, over 30 carries. Finally had a pretty good rushing game, which has been his issue, with the yards per carry, but Taylor Decker's back. So I think that's helping. So DeAndre Swift is essentially getting that Alvin Kamara usage. So going to roll with Swift in this spot, at least to open the week. Who do you like for your top plays, DFS cheat codes at running back?
So, I mean, I've been waiting for this week for quite some time now, but with Aaron Jones likely out, got to go with AJ Dillon, especially at 6,200. Facing this Vikings defense that has been sort of a run funnel. They rank 26 in DVOA against the run. Danielle Hunter and Michael Pierce are on IR. So those are two big losses along the front line. So I think Dillon's going to go off here. I'm not sure how much or if Patrick Taylor will mix in. I'm not sure what's up with him, but Kylan Hill, he's on IR. He'd be a guy that I think would step up and be the pass catching back. But I think Dillon could be a true 3-down workhorse here. So love him at 6,200. Probably will be pretty popular though. And then Darrell Williams, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is held out another week, this is a smash spot for Darrell Williams. This should be a shootout against the Cowboys. And he's sort of the best running back to have on the field because you don't know if it's a run or a pass. They've been using Derek Gore in, obvious running situations, Jerick McKinnon and, passing situations. So I think Darrell Williams could go off here against the Cowboys if, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out again. And then I think a sneaky play, a cheaper guy this week would be Nyheim Hines. Just because this is a tough matchup against the Bills. The Colts, especially Jonathan Taylor, have benefited from extremely positive game scripts against bad teams lately. But this should be a trailing game script against a tough run defense. So I think Hines could catch, 5-6 balls here. It could be a sneaky time to play Hines. And he's super cheap at 4,300. So I might sprinkle a couple Hines shares out there in GPPs.
I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. You're ranking Taylor number 2 and
I know, right?
Nyheim Hines. Like,
it's not a blind loyalty to Taylor. It's been due to the matchups, but yeah, this week against the Bills, he drops all the way down to running back 2 for me.
All the way down. Yeah, no, I like Dillon as well. I mean, like you said, there's a chance he's going to get all of that usage. Patrick Taylor doesn't really have much experience. Not really a guy. It's not like the same thing as the drop off from Jones to Dillon, which is pretty small, if existence at all at this point. And there's a big drop off to Taylor. Maybe they call up a guy like Kerrith White to play the Kylan Hill role or something like that. But it seems like could be a 25-30 touch game for Dillon. I think get back on James Conner here. His price went down a few hundred going against the Seahawks. If Kyler's back, that's all the better. I think the better that offense is as a whole, the better it works out for Conner, because remember, Chase Edmonds is on IR. So Conner still looks really good out there. He had this, when they got down big against Carolina, they came out at one point in the second half and just like gave Conner the whole drive. And he was just going. Like he got them like, half their yardage or like 2/3 of the yardage on that drive. And I believe capped it off with a touchdown. So still like Conner. Josh Jacobs is another guy in that middle tier that I like, going against the Bengals this week. Jacobs, as we've talked about, starting to get more involved in the pass game. And the Raiders beat reporters seem to think that's going to continue. They seem to think that they're making a concerted effort to kind of get him involved in that area. So like him there. Myles Gaskin, I think this is a good spot for him. He's obviously the leader in that Dolphins backfield, and this is a positive game script game for him. Just like you called out a couple of weeks ago against the Texans. So love Gaskin against a team that's giving up 44 points a game. David Montgomery, he's too cheap, 5,500. He got all the work. Or most of the work. Khalil Herbert essentially was reduced to like probably the same role or even less than Damian Williams was getting, prior to going down. So I think Montgomery at 5,500 is a steal. And then I'm going to go with D'Onta Foreman. He looks like the best Titans running back. They're double-digit favorites against the Texans. And, Foreman, he got his receiving routes run per dropback went from 3%, I think it was in the first game, to like 20%. So it was a lot more even. And McNichols wasn't even the kind of leader in terms of routes run. It kind of split 3 ways between Foreman, Peterson, and McNichols. So I think Foreman this week, we could see him just take over this backfield. He's led the backfield in yardage 2 weeks in a row. He's like, just watching the games, he clearly looks like the best back. And he was the guy early in that Saints game, ahead of Peterson. Like it was Foreman that they were really trying to get carries to, to build that lead up. And this is one of those games here. So I don't think if Foreman starts and then they get a lead, I still don't think you give Adrian Peterson a bunch of carries in a potential blowout. So I think there's a lot of outs here for Foreman to lead this backfield once again.
Yeah, and you sort of called Foreman a couple weeks ago as kind of the dark horse to lead this backfield. So this is the week to cash in, and this is hashtag revenge game. He tore his Achilles when he was on the Texans. They let him go. So I would be surprised if he's not extremely motivated to do well this week. And this is a perfect game script for him. Like you said, his receiving usage was pretty surprising. So there's a chance he's a true workhorse back going forward. And he certainly looked the part last week. They played the Saints, and we always say, don't play running backs against the Saints. So I think he could be overlooked this week despite the great spot. And yeah, I'll have a ton of Foreman shares too. I think he'll probably make it on our DraftKings team this week.
Yeah, and we gotta talk to our producers about getting some kind of listener league going with like all these obscure guys, like, because I mean the guys we've talked about on this pod, from like Cordero to start the year to like KJ Osborne, Foreman, Deontay Harris, like all the fullbacks we talk about every show.
Dawson Knox.
Yeah, Dawson Knox. Yeah, you had that was a great call. So like we have to kind of find a way to get like something going here, to kind of pay off all these listeners for listening to us talk about these guys.
Just play them in DFS. That's right. That's what I've been doing.
Right. But all right, where are we going for our prop?
Let's go with AJ Dillon. So this is up on Prize Picks right now.
Okay.
And they have the line set at 65.5 rushing yards. Are you going over or under that?
See, what do I have for Dillon? Oh, I'm going over that. I have him closer to 77.5.
Nice.
I have him around 17.5 carries. Where do you have him carry wise?
Yeah, I have him right there too. And like you said, like I don't know who. Like I have the team projection closer to like 23 or 24, and I just don't know who else to give them to.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if Kareth White gets called up or something. But I need to look into who Patrick Taylor is. Is that even a real person?
Yeah.
So yeah, right now I have Dillon at like 18.5 carries.
Okay.
He just has a really high floor here. So I'm way over as well. I'm around 75.5. So just wanted to make sure. This is one of my two best bets right now. So just wanted a sanity check. But the line seemed way too low, especially given the matchup.
And we got this Minnesota run funnel defense.
Yep.
Number 6 in DVOA against the pass. We saw that on full display, shutting down Justin Herbert, 28th against the run. That's a 22 spot difference in DVOA run versus pass there. So run funnel defense. Love Dillon's matchup this week. All right, let's go to wide receiver. Sean, top 5.
So my top 5 is Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, and your boy Deebo Samuel. Finally in my top 5.
You want to hear a fun? You always talk about my receiver top 5 early in the week is fun.
I think
you want to hear a fun one?
Number one.
Number 1, Deebo Samuel.
Oh my God.
Number 2, Devontae Adams. 3, Tyreek Hill. 4, Stephon Diggs, and 5, CD Lamb. Definitely want a Cowboy and a Chief, in my top 5 in this potential shootout. Still like Diggs going against this coat zone coverage here. So that's kind of where I am early in the week. AJ Brown has been disappointing, and I just worry about him a little bit in like these games that the Titans are going to kind of control. But him, you can't argue with him and Chase, but you got to get Deebo up to number 1.
So what's
man.
with Deebo at number 1? How many carries are you projecting him for? Is that kind of what is going on here? Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I think I have him for like 5%. So I kind of project like non-quarterback carries separately, kind of like the designed runs. So it kind of helps me differentiate between guys that are like scrambling and kneel downs and all that stuff. So I have him for 1.1. So that's not too crazy. I think that's a fair amount of carries, but he's going to be no lower than 3rd, like for me this week. Like if Devontae and Hill maybe jump him depending on how I project those totals by the end of the week. Sure. But like he's going to be in that top 3. For me, I just think he's their centerpiece. Like it's not even George Kittle anymore. Like you can see like Deebo was lining up in the backfields in that game against the Rams when they really needed one. It was him they go to, and that's him they've been going to all year. So yeah, love Deebo getting
and
in.
Cooper Kupp is on bye, so that's why the number 1 slot is up for grabs.
It's up there.
It's kind of rare we don't have Cooper Kupp ranked number 1, but that's why he's on bye. But yeah, I'm sticking with Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think he's hashtag good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our DFS cheat codes here. A lot of value. I noticed kind of looking at the slate this week. Who do you like?
Well, I gotta stick with my boy T Higgins. He's back from the bye, but instead of being 5,300, DraftKings is raises price to 5,400, which is still too low. He should be well over 6K by now. And like I said, this Bengals Raiders game has sneaky shootout potential. So I'm going to have, Burrow, Higgins, Chase stacks, Carr, Waller, Higgins stacks. Like I'm going to stack this game pretty heavily. So love Higgins at that price. And then Michael Gallup at 4,200. Same thing. This game is perfect for stacking. He came back and he ran around 57% of the time. I expect that to go up. He's probably going to end up running 80% routes run once he gets fully healthy. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Cedric Wilson.
I have him projected like up to like 75% or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Gallup. Yeah, in this game, absolutely. Because that's kind of the percentage that Dallas runs, like, 1-1 personnel, about just like between like in the mid 70s. So.
Yeah, and Cedric Wilson only ran one route. I know he was banged up, but still, I was kind of worried that they would kind of keep him involved, but that doesn't appear to be the case. And Dalton Schultz, maybe we could talk about him later, but he had a bad game. We were kind of wondering if Gallup would eat into his targets.
He missed a touchdown. Dak, he was wide open in the end zone. Great route. And Dak just overthrew him. And even though Dallas was having a great game, I think it was Greg Olsen. I forget who's the color commentator. He's like, you got to have that touchdown, Dak. And I was like, geez, they're not giving him any slack here. But unfortunately, he missed the touchdown.
There's so many weapons. I think at the end of the day, this is why I'm playing Dak a ton, because he has so many stacking options. But I think Gallup at 4,200 is a no-brainer. And then my boy, Deontay Harris at 4,200. He shreds zone coverage. Eagles run zone at the third highest rate. This is a perfect spot for him. He's only 4,200, and his routes run have stabilized around 45% since he returned from injury. But any given week, those can jump back up to 65, 70% he was running earlier in the season. He has 5+ catch potential. This is another blow-up spot for him. So love Deontay Harris. And then either DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, they seem pretty cheap. If you think Rust Wilson is going to bounce back this week, you have to play him, because I think they could be overlooked. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson will bounce back this week, but this could be a time to buy low on either one of those guys. We know their ceiling is massive, so I might sprinkle in some Metcalf and Lockett because they're both sub 7K right now.
Two things. Number one, I can't believe you mentioned the Eagles like high rate of zone coverage on a podcast before me. I feel like I say that on every podcast, because there's always some edge to be had, whether it's like betting. Like I think 2 weeks ago it was like bet the Chargers. Last week I was like take the under. Like there's just always some edge, fantasy, betting, whatever, with the fact that they just line up and play zone.
This is both of our narratives combined. My take of always play Deontay Harris when he's active,
right.
And you players like him that are good against zone against the Eagles. So it's the perfect. He has to be on our DraftKings or FanDuel team. That's a must.
And then the second thing is I'm guessing this is going to be just a huge blow up spot for Wilson, because the last time you kind of dissed a player with a name play on words was like Nick Chump. And ever since you called Dearness Johnson Nick Chump, he's gone off.
Good
so I'm
call.
hoping Russell Wilson. And I hope it's not Geno. I hope that doesn't mean it's Geno Smith though. That's going to go.
No, I think we're safe.
Yeah, but I like the calls on Higgins, Gallup, Harris. And Lockett. Those are all guys that I had written down as well. So I'll go through some of the others. Amari Cooper, Chiefs plays man coverage at the 6th highest rate. Cooper has seen just the most work of the Dallas, the top Dallas receivers against man coverage. He's been targeted at the highest rate against man versus zone. So I think Cooper has another big one. He was kind of quiet, took a backseat to CeeDee Lamb in the last one. Brandon Cooks, he's still getting a ton of targets. This Titans team is one that I think is going to, control the game. They're double-digit favorites. So I think Cooks, in kind of a comeback mode, is going to see a ton of targets. And all he needs is like one long one to really hit value. But at least he can still get the receptions. Like he's getting like 14 targets. He can still get like 7-8 catches either way. DJ Moore, you mentioned it. Washington, without that front seven, without that D line, really, with Chase Young and Sweat out, I don't think they're going to be able to pressure Cam Newton, and I think he's going to get the ball to DJ Moore, and they're going to kind of use creative ways to get him going, because they got Robbie Anderson going a little bit. So now I think it's operation and they got McCaffrey going. So it's operation get DJ Moore back involved. That's what the Panthers need, to kind of complete their resurgence and to make a playoff run. If they have more kind of activated again, along with as well as their defense is playing, as well as McCaffrey is playing, and Robbie kind of getting a little more involved. So I think that's going to kind of be a point of emphasis this week to get more going. Jalen Waddle at 5,600. I mean, again, the Jets are giving up 44 points a game. This guy has just been very involved in the offense. He played 100% of the pass snaps a week ago. So Jalen Waddle, second half of the season breakout is going to continue. Hunter Renfrow against the Bengals. I mean, Hunter Renfrow he's like he's like the new Keenan Allen almost. Like it's just gonna dog walk defenders every game, get like 6-7 catches. The yards may be there, they may not be, but he can actually ball in the red zone too. He's not just like a slot only guy that disappears in a red zone. So like Renfro, Rashad Bateman, starting to look like the Ravens' best receiver. So I think he's still worth playing. Had 6 grabs for 80 yards a week ago. My boy Jamal Agnew, he's like in my top 40 this week. He's getting carries too. He's like another Deontay Harris now. He's like getting some carries. He's fast. So I like Agnew in this spot. So those are some guys, and like I like all the guys you called too. So just a lot of value this week at wide receiver.
Sounds like you're going to be having some Dolphins stacks because you said Tua, Gaskin, Waddle. Are you going to say Mike Gesicki too?
I am. So bounce back off the 0 for 7. Oh yeah. And I was a couple spots lower than consensus on him last week. I think I had him tight end 9. And I think his consensus was like 6. So I kind of saw that coming a little bit. I did mention that the Ravens, ever since that like first 2 week, like they just got eviscerated by tight ends. They've been a little bit better against those kind of tight ends. They've used Humphrey a little more. So I think Gesicki bounced back, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with a guy who still needs to bounce back. Tell us about our prop.
Yeah, so it's my boy Mike Williams. So I was doing my victory lap after week 5. Thank you very much. One of my most drafted players in that wide receiver 40 to 45 range. But the past 4 games, it has not been pretty. He's pretty much posted a dud 4 games in a row now. So what can we expect going forward? What can we expect this week? Talking off a ledge on his player prop, because I have him projected for 54.5 receiving yards. Is that reasonable? Are you going over or under that?
Let me see, because I know my model was pretty high on Herbert this week. So let me see what I got for
that.
Williams.
That could just mean Keenan Allen catches more passes.
No shit.
So, and then we get our Donald Parham, Steven Anderson, vulture touchdowns. That seems to be the theme.
Yeah, so I have Williams right around 58. So I'll go over just slightly. He's my wide receiver 20, so I'm not out on him completely yet. I still think he's a talented guy. They're saying his knee injury has not been the issue. Who knows if that's true or not. But either way, this guy, all he needs is like 1 catch to kind of do a lot of work here. And again, I think it's a good spot for Justin Herbert going against the Steeler defense that's banged up. So, and he just needs to bounce back. So I don't think they're just going to like run it into that Pittsburgh front. So yeah, like Williams slightly over here. What do you think of him?
Well, I'm hoping for over. I have mine like all my leagues. So I was hoping you'd give me some optimism. So I'll take it. You betting the over here is all I needed to hear.
Yeah, well, I feel like you give me like sharper lines now, so it's like I end up going over. Like if it's just like a book, I go over. Yeah. I mean under almost exclusively. If you follow me in the Action Network app at Chris Raybon, you know that pretty much all my prop big bets are unders, and we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well this year, I must say. But it's just like your lines are a little sharper, so I'll give you the true projection. All right, let's get to tight ends and who we got for our top 5.
So I have Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and George Kittle.
See, I have you updated your George Kittle with like this week's data from like last night? Because I have Kelce Waller, but I have Kittle number 3.
Oh, not surprising. No, these are my initial projections. Okay. Tomorrow's my first real run through. So what did you catch? Just
no, it's just like he got another because like they only had like 20 pass attempts and he got like 5 for 50 in a touch. So his like underlying usage was very good. So yeah, he's back up to like, I mean, that's how we kind of started the season, right? Kelce, Waller, Kittle. Yeah, so we're right back there. Kelce, Waller, Kittle, Andrews, Pitts, pretty much the default draft order.
Where did TJ Hockenson go? Is he?
I don't know. I think Detroit would like to know that too. I think Jared Goff might want to know the answer.
Yeah.
To that question.
Oh my God.
He's number 6 for now, but I might end up putting Gesicki over him. I just have to kind of tweak with some routes run projections. He's still running about 85% of the routes per dropback, so underlying usage is good, but underlying quarterback is not. So that's kind of the issue here with TJ. Let's talk about some cheat codes. Who do we like this week in the lower salary range, or just, who do you like period for value?
Well, this is the I guess for the more expensive guys, I think Darren Waller at 6,100 stands out. Again, this Raiders Bengals game, I will be stacking it heavily. I think Waller's due. So I'll have plenty of Waller stacks. And then, my obligatory Dan Arnold mention. He's finally over 4K though. He's at 4,100. But his floor is way too high to pass up here, and he's yet to score a touchdown this year. So we've yet to see a ceiling game. So, there's still time to hop on the Dan Arnold train. It's not too late. Get him at 4,100. You won't regret it. And then like way farther down the list, David Njoku at 2,900 against the Lions. He's just one of those like GPP flyers where we know he has a massive ceiling and a low floor. So I'll sprinkle in some Njoku lineups here and there. His routes run rate jumped up to 63% last week. That was a season high. And I think with Odell gone, people are assuming there's going to be a number 2 receiver that steps up. That might not be true. One of their 14 tight ends might step up. So I think David Njoku has a sneaky upside to become like a number 2 option with Odell out. So love tapping his upside at a cheap, price for a tight end, worth a couple flyers in GPPs.
Talk about Deshaun Jackson. Did you see the David Njoku hot potato touchdown drop?
Oh yeah.
Like he caught it and just like immediately let it go, and then looked around like, wait, oops, was I not supposed to do that?
Yeah, he's pretty volatile. That's why I love him though.
Oh man. And let's I thought you're the odds maker. You just said somebody was due. I thought that was like a gambling fallacy, gambler's fallacy.
No, that could be regression.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like somebody
you're the odds maker.
Due to regress. Like
Remember,
I said last week, I said Dak Prescott and Mark Ingram are due for touchdowns. So as an odds maker, I would favor their odds to score a touchdown a little bit more than the market. Is the way to interpret that.
Gotcha. I'm just giving you a hard time. Speaking of hard time,
the best is when people give us a hard time for saying positive regression.
Yeah. Oh, I'm aware.
I'm aware it's redundant, but a lot of people assume regression is negative. So I just say positive regression to cancel the people that think it. Like, I'm aware that regression could be either direction. I just say positive regression just to specify.
I just go with the reversion. You got it. You got to just hit him with the reversion to the mean. You just got, you know what I mean? Then they're a little stumped. Then they like kind of pause for a second, like, and it's technically correct. So yeah. That's funny because I was just about to bring that up and then I got sidetracked. But yeah, Mike Gesicki, I think he's in a bounce back spot. The Jets are number 28 in DVOA. They're bottom 5 versus the tight end position. Gesicki, his underlying usage wasn't poor last week at all. He still had 7 targets. He just, happened to catch exactly none of them. But I think he'll get back on the right track. And this is a spot where he's been a very valuable piece for them. So I think they'll make sure to kind of get him involved, make sure that embarrassment doesn't kind of seep over into this week. And his last 4 weeks, routes run per dropback, 84%, 98%, 83%, 83%. So that's up from, he was in the low to mid 70s for the most of the year prior to the last 4 games. So his usage has been trending upwards here. And he's a borderline top 5 tight end this week, especially if you think, Belichick is going to be able to take away Kyle Pitts. You can make a case for Gesicki in that number 5 spot. So really like him. Dalton Schultz, I'm still not going away from him again. He just missed out on a touchdown last week. I think with his price going down, he's still running a route 80+% of the time. 81% last week, 91% the week before. So Blake Jarwin is still on the injured reserve. So I think Dalton Schultz is in a good bounce back spot as well. That's how you got to kind of play it with these tight ends. Just look for the underlying usage. They're going to have these rough games. They're volatile. And then another guy I'll mention, and it's more of kind of like the player kind of breaking out than the defense, because I do think Baltimore has fixed some of their issues against tight ends, but still like Cole Kmet here at 3,400. I don't think they give him the Marlon Humphrey treatment or anything like that. I think he's still going to be a guy who they're going to kind of play a little bit more straight up with the Bears and kind of worry about Mooney and Robinson a little bit more. So I think Kmet starting to break out here. The price is still low enough to target him if you want to stack with some Justin Fields pass catching action. So Cole Kmet at 34.
Yeah, I love the Kmet call, especially since he had that big game before the bye, so people might have forgotten about him. So yeah, he probably won't be too highly rostered this week. So yeah, I love the Kmet call. He's pretty sneaky this week.
All right, what are we doing for our prop?
Well, TJ Hockenson, 0 catches last week for 0 yards. So we need to figure out what's going on here, and I want to hear what you're projecting from this week against the Browns. Right now, I have his projection at 46.5 receiving yards. Are you going over or under that?
Right around 48. So I'll go, 47. You said 46.5?
46.
Oh, yeah. So that's, yeah. Again, it's like I'm over by like a half a yard. So I will give you the over here. Again, I just kind of with tight end, I mean, he's running around on 85% of the dropbacks. And, I had a lot of success kind of ranking tight ends, just kind of not really reacting to their highs and lows, but just kind of projecting them based on their routes run per dropback and, as a function of, what the quarterback's going to do and whatnot. So obviously Jared Goff does hold him back and he will have some rough games, but I still think he's their top pass catcher and he's running the route. He's running around more than anyone else on the team still. So I still am catching about 5 balls, averaging just around, 10 yards a catch. So the median will be a little under 50, but yeah, I'll go over.
Will it like Jared Goff is questionable this week? What if they end up having to start David Blau? Like how would you adjust? Would it help or hurt?
That's not David. That's David Bling Blau, man. That's
David
my dude
Blow.
right there. Yeah. I mean, I don't like at this point. I probably wouldn't say it affects anything because Jared Goff. Like, let me see what my like baseline yards per attempt is for Goff right now. It's got to be terrible. Yeah, he's like under 7. So yeah, it wouldn't really affect it wouldn't really affect it too much. Blau would be kind of in that same range.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but either way, like, yeah, TJ Hockenson, he's outside that top 5, I think, for sure. It's just how far outside is the question. All right, let's get into our lineup building segment. We like to build a lineup on FanDuel and on DraftKings. A little tournament action, although we will get some guys we like that we probably would play in cash games in as well. All right, let's start with our DraftKings lineup. Sean, you went first last week, so I'll go first on DraftKings this week. You go first on FanDuel. I'll also choose the flex for this week. Start a quarterback. I'll go with Dak Prescott. Love him here at 7,200. And I think there's going to be a lot of cheaper quarterback builds with Cam Newton and maybe Fields, maybe Tua. So let's pay up at quarterback and see what we can do here, and kind of go cheap at some other spots.
Love it. So I'm going to just force in Deontay Harris here.
That's not even a force.
Both of our narratives, your favorite, the, Eagles play a ton of zone angle, my play, just play Deontay Harris angle. And I want to play him on a full PPR site like DraftKings as opposed to FanDuel. So we're going to go with Harris on our DraftKings team.
All right, so we got 55-14 on average, 7 more players. I'll go with Amari Cooper here. I like him again against teams that play man coverage. KC 6th in man coverage. Cooper had a little bit of a quiet game last game. Took a backseat to Lamb. Gallup, kind of made his return known. So I think this is a big one for Cooper.
T. Higgins at 5,400. I keep saying take him as long as he's under 6K. So gonna force that in here. Don't think that's forcing it, but still love his value on DK right now.
And speaking of value, our wide receivers are Cooper at 6,200, Higgins at 54, and Harris at 42. So we're looking pretty good here. Our average is 5,400. We still haven't even picked the defense, so that's going to go up. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw in AJ Dillon. He's too cheap.
Nice.
6,200. He'll be our chalky play at running back.
All right. Well, let's go with double stack with Dak. Let's go with Dalton Schultz at tight end.
Ooh.
It's good leverage. I probably wanted to go Michael Gallup at wide receiver, but I like our team so far, and this is good leverage, especially against Kelsey here. So I like having Dak, Cooper, and Schultz, and I guess CeeDee Lamb's banged up this week, so I think it makes sense to go with the Cooper Schultz stack here.
All right, I'm going to go with a defense that I just love. And I think I said this in week 1. I was like, we're going to look up, and this defense is going to be one of the best ones in the league. And that's the Carolina Panthers. I mean, they're deep at corner. They can get to the quarterback. They can play man coverage. And they're going against this Washington football team where Taylor Heineke is kind of a first read guy. And if you have sticky coverage on a quarterback that's a first read guy, I think it's going to lead to some sacks. I think it's going to lead to some picks, some turnovers. They're in a major letdown spot. I mean, Carolina technically is too, but Carolina's at home. And so Carolina's got that Cam Newton energy going. So I think the letdown spot is going to be realer for Washington. So let's go with the Panthers at only 2,700. That is way too low.
Yeah, no, it's way too cheap. So let's see, that gives us 6,700. All right, well, I'm gonna go with I loved your DeAndre Swift call earlier.
Okay.
Just love his upside, especially at full PPR site like DK. So let's go with DeAndre Swift. Hopefully he gets 33 carries again this week.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Jamar Jefferson unfortunately got injured, so we'll see if Williams is back. But yeah, I expect Swift to have a big
you picked a good week, not to your typical DeAndre Swift under on his rushing yards.
Oh yeah,
so you jumped off at the right time.
It was like that Homer Simpson, when he kind of backs into the bushes. That was me when I saw that DeAndre Swift line this week. I'm like, no.
Good, yeah, good time.
Away from that.
We knew he was going to go off at some point, but
yeah, my two unders this week on props were, that I played on like the market, not on Prize Picks, but if you follow me in the app, you saw it was Adrian Peterson under that hit, and then the JD McKissick, which I gave out on Convince Me, which went under by like 11 yards. So had a good week with running back unders, but we got 6,500 here. Interesting. All of our players except our defense are on the road here. So let's see if I find it like the flex to kind of stay with that trend or we go against the grain. But 6,500, I don't want to use Hopkins. He's the only guy at 6,500. He might not even play. Devontae Smith, still think you got to fade him after these two big games. He's just going to be so popular. Okay, let's see here.
Kittle's 6,300. I feel like we always go with the two tight ends though. So Lockett, 6K.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to go to a guy who I think everyone was kind of more hyped about him last week, and he only had 10 carries for 39 yards. But James Conner, I still think he's playing like a monster, and we get to save 400. So we are, nice. We're leaving 400 on the table. So even though Conner, I mean, maybe he's going to be chalky, maybe he's not. But either way, I like, this kind of lineup build here. We have all road players. So that means like if these teams kind of come out a little flat on the road and they're playing from behind, we might get some big games. But like Conner here. So we got Dak at 7,200 at quarterback against the Chiefs. We have our running backs, A.J. Dillon at 6,200 at Minnesota, DeAndre Swift at 7K at Cleveland. And then our flex is another running back, James Conner, 6,100 at Seattle. Our wide receiving group is Amari Cooper, 6,200 at Kansas City, T. Higgins, 5,400 at Vegas, and Deontay Harris, 4,200 at Philadelphia. Our tight end is Dalton Schultz, stacked with Dak Prescott at 4,600 at KC. And then we have the Panthers defense at home at Washington football team for a low price of just 2,700.
Love it. Ton of upside in this lineup.
Yep. All right, let's jump over now to FanDuel, Sean, and you can start us off here with the first pick.
I'm sorry I have to do this, but I'm going to have one carryover player, and that's A.J. Dillon, just because I've been waiting for this moment for quite some time to have a full-on A.J. Dillon week. So let's go with A.J. Dillon at 7K. Again, it's not like FanDuel. I think he has even more value because it's half-point PPR, more touchdown dependent. So have to go with A.J. Dillon here.
All right, well, then I'm just going to go with a guy that I just love his price at running back as well. And that's Myles Gaskin at 6,200. You talk about touchdowns. The Jets are giving up 44 points a game over their last four. So I expect Gaskin to find the end zone in this spot. So let's go Myles Gaskin at 62. That leaves us an average of 66.86 for our remaining seven.
Okay, man. Yeah, I was looking at Tua QB at 7K. I don't want to stack him with Gaskin though. Let's look at receiver. Ooh, AJ Brown's a bit too cheap. Let's go with AJ Brown. I know you're urging some caution with him. I get it. I think his floor is a little bit lower this week against the Texans, but he still has that sky high ceiling, especially with Julio out. And the Titans, I think Foreman will be good this week, but if they get up big, I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball as effectively without Derrick Henry. So they might just keep airing it out. So I think AJ Brown's ceiling is still high enough to take in GPPs this week, especially at 7,200. So let's go with AJ Brown.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's still a little too low for him price here, and he's a guy that can score touchdowns, so I don't mind it at all. I will go with another guy that's just too cheap, pretty much across the industry now. You got to expect this guy to bounce back with Russ, and that's Tyler Lockett, 6,800. That's a great price to get for Tyler Lockett, averaging double digits on the year. So yeah, Tyler Lockett, 6,800. That leaves us 6,560 on average for our remaining 5 players. We need a quarterback, a wide receiver, a tight end, a flex, and a D.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the quarterback here. Jalen Hurts at 7,700 is just too cheap on FanDuel, so I'm going to go with him. I'm not sure if we even need to stack them necessarily, but I think Jalen Hurts on FanDuel at this price, too good to pass up.
Yeah, because again, I don't think the Eagles are going to be as run heavy this week against the Saints. The Saints are allowing under 3 yards per carry to running backs this year, so yeah. I think you might see Hurts running around and airing it out a little bit more. So like that one. Let's go with Darren Waller, priced as the TE4 on FanDuel at 6,700. He's behind Kelsey, Andrews, and Kittle. Got to take that value all day. So Darren Waller, 6,700 against the Bengals.
Love it. Let's see. So yeah, I'll do the honors of taking a defense. Panthers are pretty tempting on FanDuel as well. I'm not sure if you're a fan of going with them, but they're 4,100 and they're my number 3 ranked defense. Below them is the Eagles, but I'm not sure that correlates well with Hurts. So would you be okay with taking?
Yeah, I'm fine. I love
Carolina. Yeah, I think if there were ever a time where a defense is warranted to be taken in both lineups, now's the time. The Panthers are too cheap on both sides, so love them this week.
Yeah, and I don't really mind ownership with defenses either. Rostership. I think that it's just about nailing those few defenses that actually get double-digit points, and the Panthers are right there at the top of that list. All right, I'll let you pick the flex. We have 7,150 average. Love FanDuel. Right? It always seems like you have so much. So I'll let you pick the flex. I'll go with our number 3 receiver. I mean, it's FanDuel, so got to go. Oh, actually, no, because the Packers have been playing good defense, though.
Let me try to guess who you were.
I was gonna go with Dillon. You
didn't let me guess. Oh yeah, Dillon's perfect for FanDuel, right? Touchdown.
Okay, let's do it. You know what? Because I mean, the Packers have been playing good defense, but it's Adam Dillon. Like he scores touchdowns. That's what he does.
Yep. And last week was a squeaky wheel game for JJ. I think they're trying to avoid a Stephon Diggs situation with him. So I figured they would feed him the ball. That's why I was on Thielen's under, and he just barely went over. So yeah, love Thielen here, and yeah, for a side like FanDuel where touchdowns are a little bit more valuable, he makes sense here. So how much do I get for
7,200? Okay, you're in a good spot. Yeah,
I would say either Brandon Cooks or Jalen Waddle. Let's see which one would make sense. So we already have Gaskin. Let's go with Brandon Cooks with AJ Brown, a mini game stack. Yeah.
Yes, like that. All right, so that leaves 600 on the table. And we have, I mean, unless do we want to upgrade anywhere for that 600? I mean, let's see. Is there anyone
like Gaskin at 6,200? I don't know if there were any running backs in that range that are worth an upgrade. Let me see.
I mean, you can get Josh Jacobs at 68, but then you're leaving nothing on the table. And I kind of like
Gaskin. I have Gaskin ranked slightly ahead of Jacobs. So
yeah, that's what I mean. Like I think we're fine. Unless we want to change our defense so we don't have the Panthers twice.
But who are we gonna pick? That's the question.
Let's see. We could Titans, Bills, Ravens would be the options. Bills could be interesting against Carson Wentz.
Yeah, let's go with that. Love that call.
I mean, Carson Wentz is like he only has like a few interceptions on the year, but they're all of just the worst kind.
Yeah. How many interceptions will he throw with his left hand this week? Over under a half.
Over. How many will he throw at his own goal line this week?
Right. Yeah. See, okay. I love it. Let's go with Bills. We have 200 left over.
Perfect. So
the only overlap is AJ Dillon.
Perfect. So Jalen Hurts at 7,700 against the Saints, AJ Dillon at 7K at Minnesota, Myles Gaskin at 6,200 is our second running back at the Jets. And then our wide receivers, AJ Brown, 7,200 against Houston, Tyler Lockett, 6,800 against Arizona, and Adam Thielen 7,100 against Green Bay. Darren Waller is our tight end at 6,700, and Brandon Cooks is our flex at Tennessee at 6,600. And then we got the Bills defense at 4,500 hosting the Indianapolis Colts. So those are our lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings. Hope you guys enjoyed that exercise. It gave you some ideas for how to build your own lineups. Again, Sean puts out his tiers article later in the week, so you can see exactly where he's tiering all the players at all the positions. And I put out my DFS matchups column on Saturday at actionnetwork.com and fantasylabs.com, where you can get a full breakdown of the guys I'm going with in cash and in GPPs. That's going to do it for our week 11 main slate fantasy flex podcast presented by Prize Picks. You can find Sean on Twitter at @_oddsmaker, and you can find me on Twitter at Chris Raybon. You can find us at those same handles in the free award-winning Action Network app, where you can track all of your bets or follow ours, including our player prop bets. Be sure to check out actionnetwork.com for our fantasy football content, rankings, and projections, and fantasylabs.com for our DFS content tools and models. Until next time, let's get this money.